Welcome back to Gold Seek TV. I'm excited to be here today with a company which holds one of the primary high-grade silver projects in the world. So with that, Ian Harris, thank you for joining us today and coming to talk about this very exciting project that continues to advance and develop and grow. And if you can give us more insights about that here in a bit. But thank you for joining us today.
Yeah, thanks a ton. Good morning. Good morning. It's a pleasure to be here.
Yes, it's an interesting time to be speaking with you because you've just joined the company as a president and CEO of the company. The company recently put out its first maiden resource on this exciting project, and it appears that the project is now moving to kind of its next level, which I believe fits well with your background as a mining engineer. So if you can kind of talk a bit about your background and what attracted you to this position with Outcrop, and what you find exciting about this project in Colombia.
Yeah, absolutely. So I've been working about the last 7 years in Colombia and living in Colombia for the last 2 years, and had, the Outcrop crew is a group that I've known for a very long time, and obviously share stories and knowledge and know what's going on and very close to the project. But to up to just a few months ago, it was a true exploration discovery story. I am a mining engineer. I've got 25 years working in the industry, and 15 of those are living and working in South America. I'm fluent in Spanish. I enjoy working and being very close to the projects, but I'm obviously not a discovery geologist. So previously, I was senior vice president and country manager for Corriente Resources, and took the Mirador project all the way through the start of construction. It sold for 690 million, but we did get it across that finish line, and it went on to become the first industrial scale mine in the history of Ecuador. So I like projects that can become producers. Right now, the Santa Ana project of Outcrop is still very early stage, but it's got so many of the qualities for it to become I know one day it will be a future mine. And that's what's really special about it. And that's obviously the real attraction. The other attraction is its uniqueness. It is truly one of the few primary silver projects that exist. It doesn't just have silver in the name. It's really a silver project. And one of the few projects I think has the grade that justifies and would actually make an economic mine. And there's a lot more details in there that I know that it's got the legs to become a future project. And that's not common, right? I mean, I've met a lot of people, but very few people have actually worked on a project, drilled a project, explored or discovered that actually ends up going to become a future mine. So, that's a big qualifier for me. I like working on projects that have the potential to become future producers.
So you see a good potential for this to turn into a silver mine. So let's talk about where the project is right now. You come into the company with a maiden resource, which is very high grade, and it's just, I believe, around 40 plus million ounces, most of it in the higher indicated resource category. And that's coming just from 7, or maybe not just 7, I think it was more 6 veins. So let's talk about what exists now and what the potential is with the company. I believe is mapped out well over 20 veins to go work on.
That is an excellent description. Really, the resource, the majority of it was from 6 veins, but each one of those veins contributed an important component of the resource. The other thing that Joe, the previous CEO, did an excellent job at was really doing a high percentage of drilling that was in the indicated level. Because, if anybody who's seen this story before know that it puts out from absolute screamers in terms of grade. So the question mark in everybody's head is, well, is it just a nugget effect? Are they still drilling out the same area? So I think there would have been a lot of doubt if it was in an inferred category. So get the drilling density into it to show, nope, this holds together very well across a long strike. It holds very well together along depth, that this is a real thing. This is an actual deposit, and putting out the maiden resource. The problem with putting out a maiden resource is most people go, well, that's it, right? They say, oh, they might add 10% or 20%. But the truth, like you mentioned, this is on 6 veins. We still have another 20 veins that have been identified, mapped, and sampled to show that they continue this high grade silver trend. So now it's about showing that we have a pathway to get to a much larger size. So we have a pathway.
Mhm.
I mean, the math is simple. If half of them play out, you're already looking at over 100 million ounces. And that's what we need to do. And that's also something I can do because I'm not an exploration geologist. It's to use the game plan in the that was put together in the past. We are currently drilling. We have 1 drill turning. It's a slow process because testing new areas, but that is the goal. It's to say, yep, this one checks. It's going to be a future. It's going to be coming into a future resource. This one checks, and to be adding these veins to be able to prove to market that there's this pathway. And so that's the focus. Instead of generating a resource, it's now proving the pathway.
Okay.
And that's what we're doing today. The other thing, though, I don't want to gloss over because it's like I got lost in this little shuffle. We've also put out some absolutely amazing metallurgical test work that shows a 93% recovery from flotation. And most people would just go, yeah, who cares? Right? Flotation, what are you going to do with your concentrate, et cetera? But if you look at it, it's a 93% recovery, but it produces a silver concentrate, a precious metal concentrate. It's not silver in a lead concentrate. It's not silver in a zinc concentrate. It's not a zinc. It's not a silver concentrate, a silver inside of some sort of sulfide concentrate, right? It's a silver concentrate. And that's a really big difference because it's got the grade that we could even, and we're doing this work now, but I'm confident because of past history, I've done this kind of thing before, right? It's got the grade that you could smelt it directly. You can go right from a concentrate to a doré. And because I get asked all the time, oh, is that because it's get this high recoveries because it's a refractory ore? And then it dawned on me, right? I was like, oh, we need to really make sure everybody understands that we actually have a silver sulfide. This silver is in the sulfide form. And it's really unique. Like it's really, 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 really special, right? That we could actually produce silver at our project, right? Without cyanide, without leaching, without all these other issues. And that's another reason why it has such a huge potential to become a future mine. And so, we've done really well over the last month. It's been a terrible market. And I think we're up, 40% plus, or maybe right today. And it's because of that. And that's one of the exciting parts. I said, okay, this is a terrible market. Silver's down. Mining equities are down. I see people, I'm in Vancouver right now. There's people jumping off the buildings. It's blood on the streets, as they say.
Yeah.
But we're doing well because I knew compared to where we sit versus our competitors, right? That just people understanding the story, the legs that it has, we're currently drilling, we're going to be able to get in. There's still a lot of room to create a lot of value for our shareholders. And that's exciting, right? We can create value because we're going to be increasing the resource, or we're drilling, or silver improves, or market improves. But we also have just understanding the story, getting the news out. And it's clicking with people. They're understanding the real potential of this project. So it's really an exciting time to be working with this company.
So if you were to look at, say, relative valuations of other high grade silver projects, how are you trading relative to these peers?
It depends what day I do it, but it's normally between a 2 to 4 times difference of undervalued. And let's be fair, a little bit is that because, they're in Mexico or they're in Canada and we're in Colombia, the jurisdiction isn't understood as well. But again, I look at the potential to create value, and I know the story of Colombia is changing dramatically. Look at Collective Mining, what they're doing in the country and demonstrating you could advance projects. It's, I think, a little misunderstood jurisdiction, but Colombia needs mining like desperately. It's 60% of its economy is based on oil and coal, and those are obviously not robust industries at this time. They're going to be dying industries. So it really needs this moving towards the future. It's very much focused on the energy transition. Silver is so much of a transition metal. It's the type of projects that the country wants to see. And it's going to not just be an exporter of concentrates, that has the potential to actually produce silver. And that's exciting, right? So I think all
you
these
see
things
that
together.
in Colombia, you see this as some sort of a domestic fabrication for the green energy transition, that they will be able to use their domestic silver supplies towards is.
Yeah, one of my favorite stories is the pet project of the president of Colombia is he's a solar panel nut. And so, boy, should he be happy that he has one of the few primary silver projects in the world that could be producing silver in his country, right? Yeah, absolutely. This is the real goal of Colombia is creating production chains off of the transition metals, right? It's a pretty lofty goal, but as a minimum, right, it bodes very well for projects such as Santa Ana, right, that are very important. There's not a metal in the world that's more efficient at transmitting energy than silver, right? And that's important. And that's why it's in solar panels, right? Because when it's efficiency and it can't oxidize is very important, then silver is your only choice.
It's excellent. And so one of the, I guess, issues with any mine, and especially in more environmentally sensitive areas, maybe like in Colombia, is a potential for, mining acid, some sort of leaching from these different processes. So this isn't an issue for you. Outcrop Silver, the project looks to be environmentally sound. How does that look?
Yeah, to date, it looks really good. It would be an underground operation because higher grade actually means less tons to produce the same amount, right? So the overall disturbance is lower. We can produce a silver concentrate from flotation, meaning no leaching. That's also good. We've also done the initial static test work for geochemistry that shows that it has its potential is to be non-acid generating, which is also fantastic, meaning it's got so many of these check boxes. So if you're really looking for a silver project that has the lowest footprint possible to date, it's checking the boxes, right? By Mother Nature. And then obviously there's lots of things in the design process to make it even better, but just being underground and flotation only, right, and non-acid generating, these are some big boxes, right, to say. And when the world every day is more sensitive to these issues, this is the kind of project. The world needs more silver. The world needs more products, more metals. These are the kind of projects that will stand out, right?
Absolutely. Well, that's excellent to hear. You have good support there. Sounds like from the political side, as they're looking to transition to green energy. Now, how about the local community side? How relations? I know that's also very important, especially in this part of the world.
Yeah. So the project is actually kind of in the center of a overall cluster of mining. You have Buritaca and Marmato, and there's a gold mine operating 10 kilometers south of us. It's kind of in an area since colonial times. It's got a history of mining. And also, obviously, one of the, you don't get projects into production because you have bad relations with the local community, right? And so that was a big part about joining Outcrop too, right? Is that I'm a strong believer not in just having good relationships with your local community, but actually creating real relationships with your local community, because these projects can take decades to get up and running. So those are relationships you build over time. You build trust over time. You incorporate over time. Right. I mean, I get into fights a lot where it's, we should buy the truck instead of renting it because we could, maybe save $10. And I'm like, well, what are you doing? This is the least expensive community relations program you have, right? Everything else, you
Mhm.
just throw money out the window to do other projects. This is a real relationship. You're actually, using the services. You have to be focused on working locally. And this is a relationship that builds over time. So heavily focused and making sure you're really maximizing local benefit. It's always easy to make the excuse and bring something in and import it in from Medellin. And it's a lot harder to source things locally, but that's the way you've got to do it from the beginning, because as a project grows, it only becomes harder.
Mhm.
So yes, this is a key basis. I would put it as the number one basis for any project on the planet. Is the number one thing. It's not technical, it's not environmental, it is social. The
Mhm.
that is the relationships that drive a project over the long term. So this is obviously another reason why I joined, and I'm a true believer in it, and it's a key component. And the Outcrop team has done an amazing job to date, and they're going to continue to do an amazing job, and we're going to do an amazing job.
Excellent. Before we talk about the recent acquisition or merger that took place, I wanted to just go back to the project you have. So you have catalysts moving forward. You have a drill rig testing out different vein structures. So you're now looking to prove out more of these veins and show to the market that this thing is going to continue to grow. So that's kind of the major catalysts there. Is there anything else that we should be looking for in the coming quarters, the year down there at the project?
I think that the number one catalyst for the project is the story, right? Because it's not been understood, right? It's
Mhm.
been a different focus putting out that initial maiden resource. And I think when, hearing the story I just told is a huge catalyst, right? And the great news is that Outcrop is drilling. It puts out drill results that get people attention and will help us continue to tell that story. So
Mhm.
obviously the drilling is a huge catalyst, but also when people really start to understand the potential of this project, what I just overall described to you, right? If we look back at the last cycle, how did the mid-tier silver companies become who they are? Right.
Mhm.
And it's on the back of projects like Santa Ana, projects that have real legs to get into production, right? That gets people across the finish line and then gets scalable, which is another huge component, and can leapfrog into larger and larger projects, right? And so everybody knows that and because there's so few of them, that Santa Ana is one of those building blocks that will be essential in the future for the next group, right? So that story being understood, the legs that the project have, is the biggest catalyst, right? And the other things that we'll be continuing to do, I think drilling will be the major news flow, but we're going to be continuing to do different small pieces, more metallurgical test work because this is such a good part of the story. I want to run it to ground, to look at the back end of it as, showing that it can be smelted and creating doré at site.
Mhm.
We're getting 93% recovery, but it doesn't include gravity separation on the front end. And so obviously we have some native silver, so I know we can get a couple percentage points better. But the big part is drilling until market shifts, right? When market goes, the nice thing here is that we can test, we can bring in more drills, we have more targets. But right now it's about demonstrating the pathway to get it's proving out additional veins, and then once you have the pathway demonstrated, then you're filling out that resource. But we're not
Mhm.
going to drill it to an indicated level. We don't have to do that anymore because we proved how this thing holds together. So we
Mhm.
can do more efficient drilling at creating additional resource. But the next big step, and it's not going to be at this rate, won't be anytime super soon, but will be to do another resource, but only when it's taking a large step
Mhm.
bigger. I'm not going to do a resource just to add 10 million ounces. We have to be able to demonstrate to market that we're making larger steps and larger leaps in the overall resource.
That makes sense. I mean, when I first saw the headlines of some of the initial drill results, I was like, wow, these are incredible numbers, but is it just a nuggety effect? Is this vein structure holding together? So that's been proven through the first tier maiden resource. So that makes sense as a strategy going forward. So as part of the strategy, you appeared, to diversify a bit in with this merger of a smaller junior company with some interesting projects. So you can give us a little bit of insight into what that is about, and what do you see with this acquisition merger?
Yeah. So really, while the company we acquired it because it did have some really excellent projects within its portfolio, and that was a big part of it. In a different market, it's got multiple projects that would be company building projects, but obviously we're not in that market. So that's the first one. It was very opportunistic to be able to acquire at a very cheap price some excellent projects that in a slightly different market, right? Or even just meeting the right people, right? These are projects that could create a significant amount of value for shareholders without doing anything, right? The 100% focus of the company is Santa Ana in Colombia, right? We are not going to even do anything that would risk losing the silver lining, I like to say it, of the company. So don't even think about it. So I keep telling people, right? Yes. But it is an insurance policy, right? It's tough being in a single jurisdiction because you're obviously susceptible to things happens, right? Things do happen. Coups happen, knock on wood, not in Colombia in 50 years or however long it's been, but it does, these things happen, right? So, and those can be company killers. So it is a little bit of a political risk insurance that didn't cost very much to pick up, and in a different market can create significant value for our shareholders as they get spun off into the future. Nice. So again, a huge opportunity to create a lot of value. There's no additional spend. We didn't pick up any management, any employees. The bills have been paid for a year, so they don't really create significant burn for the company. So it was a nice little tag on, and it creates a nice little insurance policy.
That makes sense. Diversifying the risks geopolitically, which obviously is beyond its control. So that's a good move. Excellent. Well, that's a very exciting story. I mean, I didn't realize the scope of the project until I met with some of the company earlier in the year. So I was quite amazed on how large and what the potential of this project is. So it's exciting to see it move forward and have you join the company and bring your mining engineer and the next step focus to this project as it starts to develop even further. So looking forward to following up on those drill results, and looking forward to further conversation with you next month here in Europe at the Precious Metals Summit. So thank you, Ian, for your time today and giving us an initial overview of the company, and looking forward to following it further. If anyone's interested more in the company, the company's website is outcropsilver.com is the best way.
Yeah, Outcrop Silver and Gold. Right,
silver and gold. Yes,
but it should just be Outcrop Silver. I agree. Like we get in that fight a lot. But I love your feedback, because what your words that just came out of your mouth, I think, is proof that the biggest catalyst of the company truly is the story and where it's going. Because I said your image, your thoughts of the company have changed just by taking a deeper dive, and I think a lot of people are going through that same process right now, right? All the focus to date has been on that, getting out that initial maiden resource, and so people didn't see the forest for the trees, and that our story, the legs this project has, is really the biggest catalyst. So it's the biggest part of my job is getting out there and getting on a megaphone, and luckily with drill results, it makes that job a whole lot easier.
Excellent. Well, thank you, Ian, and thank you for your time this early morning and giving us an update. So I'll look forward to speaking with you further next month in Europe. Have a good rest of your day.
You too. Look forward to seeing you in Zurich.